I can speak very briefly about the projects with the mushrooms and the synthesizers, which is has been released into the world as a collection of recordings called worlding, which is a concept that folks listening may be familiar with, which I'm sure we can discuss. But the idea that was interesting to me about this project was to approach it as a way of designing technologies for listening and approaching the design of the project as a series of questions about navigating my own presence in the design process with my own absence from the design process, and my way of thinking about how mushrooms, which naturally within networked bodies, which is what a mushroom is, sends signal, it sends nutrients and as well as electrical signal in order to communicate throughout the network of its body.
But somehow this impossibility to communicate or to get in touch with non-human is something that links our projects together. And for a long time, I was attached to the a phrase to speak with something, and there was always this division between speak about or aboutness and speak with. I recently had a phrase to speak nearby, and I think that this is actually even more exact.
A story that I could tell you, which is the mushrooms were growing and they're connected to the synthesizer and they're producing these sounds, and mushrooms communicate internally through voltage spikes. And this is unlike other plants, which mushrooms are their own species, but unlike other plants where you could get electricity, but you don't get voltage spikes in response to the same stimulation. And so this has been compared to a grammatical language. And yet, as language is so much rooted in the imagination too, that we have to imagine ourselves understanding this shape of our utterances as having a meaning. The mushroom sits right next to me here, not currently, but it's there, and I hear it's making these loud sounds. And I wonder, why is it making these loud sounds? And I kind of record it, and I stop. I turn off the light and I leave the room, and it dawns on me the next morning, maybe there's something that it's responding to. And I come back and I test the lamp. I turn the lamp on, and 2 minutes to go and it starts to spike. And the spikes go, and I turn the lamp off. And after 7 minutes, it gives these 5 jolts in a pattern, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And then it stops. The spikes stop. And I say, okay, that's strange. And I try it again. 2 minutes, the spikes begin. 7 minutes later, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and stops. And so suddenly I'm hearing this. It's like a language. It's like it's a musical piece that is written by the mushroom in my imagination. Is the mushroom actually trying to communicate with me? It's impossible to tell. And as much as I tried to think about this, I realized maybe it doesn't matter, because the mushroom did communicate with me. So can we say that the mushroom meant to? Can we say that the mushroom has intention? I can't, but I can say that it succeeded, that ultimately, regardless of the purpose of those spikes, the mushroom succeeded in getting me to turn off the lamp. And so I call this a sort of lullaby for lamps. But so much of this happens in the imagination. And as you rightfully said, the interesting question for me is, what takes place in our imagination? What takes place objectively? Can we ever know? Can we ever set that boundary? And how would we? How would we go about it if we wanted to, if we had to? And do we have to? And maybe this is not for you to answer, but for you to respond to, perhaps.
Yeah, I wonder if the mushroom really wants to communicate. I think it's also, I don't know, maybe yes, maybe not. I think this is absolutely not a question that we can answer anyhow. But I think this feedback, that how I started to think about myself through non-humans, through this being nearby, I think this is much more clear knowledge that I can get out of this insistence of communication than anything else. And I think that to really reformulate myself and to understand myself that I am many, even though that this is also another phrase that is very exhausted and used in the popular science. But yes, I mean, at the same time, I am many. And what does it mean? Or my skin is porous. And what does it mean? How does this immediately, like how this actually, what kind of knowledge does it give it to me, not only on conceptual level, but mostly on the embodied level? Like, what is this physically? What does it mean to me? So like for me, this trying to communicate with non-humans, on being with or being nearby, is mostly how I can also change my position in the world, and how can I rethink myself, and to a little bit destabilize in my head this whole hierarchy where the humans